I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC 312, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event. And the thumbnail always gives it away. Biggest stock riser on this card, no questions asked, was Weili Zhang. Absolutely dominant performance over Tatiana Suarez, getting the unanimous decision. But this was just a total beatdown. Suarez had no answers past round 2, basically. And this is the type of win that, a lot of people are talking about this, and I agree. I think Weili Zhang could potentially move up and fight Valentina Shevchenko for the flyweight title. I think there's a lot of interest in doing that, especially with Zhang beating most of the women already in the weight class. So this was one of those performances, I think, that, again, and Suarez or Zhang closed as the betting underdog. So even more impressive that, towards the end, people were leaning the other way, and it's Zhang who ends up coming out on top. So, to me, Zhang gets this just because this was like total domination. Suarez didn't really have any answers at all, like I said, and I think Zhang has to be the biggest stock riser because a lot of people, again, are kind of feeling like this was the type of like win she had. The people now want to see her maybe explore other opportunities. So to me, Weili Zhang, biggest stock riser. Second biggest stock riser on this card was Dricus du Plessis, the middleweight champion. Also very impressive. Again, I don't think Sean Strickland really won any of the rounds. I think he did land more significant strikes in round 4, but either way, du Plessis to me dominated this fight. The reason I gave Zhang the edge is just because of the fact that, Strickland's lost before. It's an opponent he's already beat. With Zhang, Suarez was a new opponent. There was a lot, going into this with Suarez's wrestling and all that, if that was going to be a factor, and Zhang was able to shut that down and show her own wrestling in that fight. So I give her a slight edge over Dricus, but Dricus had a good performance too. I mean, still went 5 rounds, broke Sean Strickland's nose. And also, I think something that could have been done a bit better, he's calling out Alex Pereira like, I don't think that fight's going to happen. I know backstage after the fight, and I've saw people messaging me about this, him and Pereira had a deal that they're going to fight each other. Well, number one, that's going to have to happen at 205 because there's no way that Pereira is going to come down and fight at 185 again. I don't think that's happening. He's too big. And number two, Pereira's got unfinished business. He's got to fight Magomed Ankalaev next. And I think du Plessis, we all want to see him fight Khamzat Chimaev. Once those fights take place, then maybe we can have that talk. If DDP beats Chimaev and Pereira beats Ankalaev, then maybe we can have that talk. But I think right now, I think that was a bit of a waste. I would have liked to have seen du Plessis say something about Chimaev because that is going to be the next fight for him. I'd be pretty shocked if it wasn't. So that's another reason why maybe I didn't put him in the top spots. If he had a better promo, maybe I'd consider it being a bit better. But, I was very complimentary towards du Plessis on the post-fight show. I'll say it here as well. He's looking so good every fight. I mean, again, it's just, he had a close fight with Strickland. Tonight he goes out there. He really makes an explanation point on that rivalry that they have. He gets the win there. So big win there for du Plessis, my other big stock riser. Okay, third biggest stock riser on this card. Had to go down a little bit because this card, let's be honest, not the greatest card we've seen. But I went with Gabriel Santos. Now, look, I know Santos was favored to win this fight, like a 2-1 favorite. It's the fact he got the finish on Jack Jenkins as well, which I liked. And, 28 years old, coming into his prime. I think this is a guy we could be keeping an eye on at the weight class at 145. Could certainly do some damage here. I don't know. He really stood out to me. I know there was a couple other good performances on here as well, but thought I'd put Santos in the third spot. And then another guy that I want to give a honorable mention to. How about on the prelims, McAuliffe? That was a really good win over Giussette. Underdog, getting it done. Didn't know a ton about McAuliffe going into this fight, but he was plus 170, 25 years old, 6 feet tall for 170. Not a bad build there. Was actually had a longer reach advantage in this fight, but he looked great. Like he's someone, like every now and then you'll see a fight and you're like, man, I want to keep an eye on this guy going forward. That's sort of what I felt about watching McAuliffe tonight. You guys let me know in the comments what you thought of his performance, but I think he deserves an honorable mention here as well. Okay, let's get to the stock droppers. Actually tricked you guys on the thumbnail. I got to do that every now and then. Can't keep it so obvious, but biggest stock dropper was Tatiana Suarez. Now, Suarez was undefeated. I think it's just the way she lost. Like if this fight was like competitive or Suarez did something like late in the fight that like maybe hurt Zhang or something, I think she, I think people are going to be hard on her regardless. I see a lot of people saying, all types of stuff, but let's break it down here. And I'm going to maintain this. I still think she beats most women in this weight class. Like her wrestling is still at the top of the food chain. It just didn't work against Zhang in the sense that Zhang was able to keep the fight standing. I think a lot of fighters will get taken down by Tatiana Suarez. So it's the fact that she was undefeated. It's the fact that she closed as a betting favorite. It's the fact that, Weili hadn't really fought a wrestler like her other than maybe Carla Esparza. So I think there's a lot of reason. And Tatiana's never really looked bad in a fight. Like the worst fight she's had prior to this was Nina Nunes in a fight where we knew that she had a neck injury. So at least then you could say, okay, at least there's part of the reason why she didn't, look super impressive. But I mean, she finished Alexa Grasso, finished Carla Esparza. Like she's finishing all of her opponents for the most part. But it's just the fact that this fight wasn't competitive. She's the biggest stock dropper on this card. I'm still a believer. I think if she fights someone next, I had a couple suggestions on the post-fight show, maybe like an Amanda Ribas or maybe Yan Shonan, although I don't know if that's a fight she wins. But I think in general, I think Suarez will, she could win a couple fights and be right back in contention. This was a big step up going from Jessica Andrade to Weili Zhang. So either way, her stock takes a huge drop because if she won, she'd be the champion. Now she's lost, and fans are already talking about, turning on her basically. So I'm already seeing a lot of that on social media. So Suarez, biggest stock dropper. Second biggest stock dropper is the guy we had in the thumbnail. That's Sean Strickland. Not to take anything away from Duplessis, but I don't think I'm alone in saying this. Strickland didn't it's like of all fights, like you thought this fight he'd be more aggressive, right? Because the last fight it maybe cost him. It kind of cost him against Jared Cannonier not being as aggressive. He was even less aggressive in this fight. I don't know why that was. I don't think it was because of the staff or anything else that happened or him breaking his nose, any of that. I just think, I don't know. I don't know if it was a mental thing or I don't know if DDP is just that good. You don't want to be too aggressive with him. I don't know what it is, but I felt like Sean kind of let himself down a little bit. And the optics of this, I mean, Strickland will probably not fight for a title again. I think that's fair to say at his age with, he's 33, but we'll see. He's already lost twice to the champ. He's kind of in that Max Holloway land that he was in at 145 when Volk had beat him twice, or Robert Whittaker when Izzy beat him twice. Same sort of thing here, where Strickland's now lost twice to the champ. So you better hope that DDP moves up or goes elsewhere. Pretty hard to see a third fight with him and DDP after the way this fight went. I still think there's some big fights out for him. I know some people in my chat tonight talk about retirement. I don't think he's there yet. He's got to fight either Adesanya or Whittaker next. That has to happen, right? Cash in what you have with Strickland. Like he's, say what you want about him and him being controversial. People are interested in him. So use that and book a big fight. Don't give him an up and comer. Don't give him like a contender series guy. Don't give him Bo Nickel. Get him someone that's still got a bit of a name and at least put that on like a pay-per-view or something and get something out of Strickland while you have him left here. So that's what I would suggest. But yeah, Strickland took a huge stock drop, obviously, with the fact that he wasn't able to capture his title and, performance wasn't good. So Strickland definitely a big stock dropper on this card. Okay. My third stock dropper on this card, going to go down the card a little bit. Slaviklaus, favored in this fight, lost. He's lost a few now, right? Like he's had, he lost the fight to Hooper just 2 fights ago. That's tough for a guy who, 33, where does he go from here in a division that's already really stacked? Like I just, couldn't really think of someone that was like had a lot of stock going in and then like dropped a bunch, unless I'm missing someone. But yeah, Slaviklaus to me just stood out because again, favored in this fight. He wasn't a huge favorite. I think he was like minus 155, but loses to Tom Nolan, who he has a bit more experience than and is older, should be performing better. Didn't able to get it done, and Slaviklaus falling up short here. And then a quick honorable mention. Gotta mention Cody Steele. Now, I didn't put Cody Steele on my like actual stock dropper list because I think people in general were overhyping him. I don't think that's necessarily something on his end, but he gave us a good fight. I mean, this was the fight of the night for sure. That round especially, what can you say? I mean, there was just a great fight overall. So gotta mention him here because he lost and he was a big favorite going in, but I have a hard time putting him on a stock dropper list because I think him and Rongzhu both elevated their stocks tonight with that type of performance. So got to add that in there. And that's what I got. I'm not even going to Jubilee, yeah, he loses in 19 seconds, but he was like a huge underdog going into this fight. Like, I don't know what else really could add for like honorable mentions here. I think this card kind of played out the way we all sort of thought it would. So I want to know in the comments what your three biggest stock risers are, and I want to know why, and what your 3 biggest stock droppers are. Would love to debate that in the comments. That would be awesome. You guys could take a chance to do that. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at Lynch on Sports. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. It really does help out the channel big time. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Stock Report.